Hello and welcome back to the news. Okay, today's episode is a bit of a shorter one. We're doing a focus on a few of the key stories from the last few days. So, yeah, let's not beat around the bush. Let's get going.
It's there, just around the corner, and it keeps you going.
All right, CD Projekt Red, it, of course, couldn't get any worse for them, eh? They've now been subject to a major cybersecurity breach. Basically, much like other publishers this year, somebody found their way into their network and escaped with a massive amount of data. We've got the full source code for Cyberpunk, for Gwent, for The Witcher 3, as well as a ton of the internal documentation for the company. Spicy. How do we know this? Well, we know it because CD Projekt Red said so. They announced it publicly on their Twitter, including the contents of the ransom note they were actually left. Now, this is a serious criminal matter, right, involving the theft of the personal data of hundreds of employees, likely to include everything CD Projekt actually have down in writing, right? So that means names, addresses, financial info, medical info. This is a huge deal and very big for the people impacted by it. Now, that said, we need to take a moment and look at the ransom note. The contrast between official branded communication and this ransom note, which is basic compared to other notes that we've seen, left actually some people thinking that this was a joke or a PR stunt. That this is just CD Projekt Red, I don't know, conspiracy stuff. I'm going to say I massively doubt that, and there's a very simple reason why. Playing the victim of a cyber attack as a publicly traded company would have severe legal implications. A joke, taking about 6% off your stock price one day isn't very funny. And generally that's regulated to hell. Since CD Projekt Red have no intent on communicating with their hacker, their source code and internal documents, well, assuming the hacker's true to their word, that stuff will be floating around the internet soon. In fact, the source code of Gwent is actually already out there. It's, a situation where I think we're pretty lucky that user data wasn't affected, or else this could have been a whole lot worse, but it is real bad. Now, there's not much to analyze here from our perspective, as, much as gaming could, maybe benefit in terms of information from the source code, learn some interesting things from internal documentation, maybe get to a little bit of truth about how the game's development actually went. And as much as, if all of us were able to read the comments left by the programmers in the code, it would probably be very funny. Ultimately, this is a serious crime motivated by profit, right? By somebody holding the company at ransom, and the ransom note actually mentions selling the source code after all. More importantly, the leaked docs could obviously cause harm to more or less everyone CD Projekt Red has worked with, especially with some of the residual anger that's still floating around after the game. So it's a big disaster. Now, in the wake of all this, the third publisher hit in 4 months, it's clear that games companies really need to up their cybersecurity standards. Capcom, Ubisoft, CD Projekt, they've all been stolen from, and that is a lot of personal data just be floating around the dark web.
Bam, looking good.
In news that's depressing for a different reason, Anthem Next's future is now reportedly awaiting its final judgment from EA. And honestly, I don't think it's looking good. So Bloomberg sources previously said the team was about 30 people in size, but that it would need to grow to at least 90 people to facilitate new content and continue the overhaul of Anthem as is planned. 90 developers. It's a lot of developers, right? Especially when you're talking about some of those real, key foundational roles on a team. That's a lot of people, a lot of talent. And as always, when it comes to allocating talent, opportunity cost. Could they be working on something else that's more productive? That means that Anthem being revived is a risky proposition. So let's investigate things a little. This is a graph of activity on Anthem's subreddit. Extremely popular at launch, but nothing drove activity back to it, basically. I mean, the launch of the Cataclysm caused a little spike, but even the news of Anthem Next did basically nothing for it. But there's another key data point here. Marvel's Avengers. It's a loot-focused, mission-driven, live service action game based off one of the largest IPs in the world, and it was a colossal financial failure for Square. So, If the Avengers is a big old failure, what the hell hope does Anthem have? It doesn't look good. In 2021, the only reason to give Anthem any resources is to right a wrong. And while EA have improved their core games recently, they are still a business, so they will be looking to the most profitable option, not the one that could produce the best story or that would feel good. So to be honest, I think Anthem's chance has long passed here, and I mean, would you rather play an improved version of Anthem, or would you rather have those 90 devs working on Dragon Age or Mass Effect? Ultimately, when I look at BioWare, I don't want some live service dribble. I want a BioWare RPG. So we could probably put those devs into making Anthem an okay loot game, or those devs could move on to what BioWare actually specializes in doing, and I think that would probably yield more success.
It's sort of like streaming TV shows or music, but instead Stadia is a gaming service by Google.
If you're one of the extremely few people to play on Stadia, then there's even more bad news for you, because the unannounced Terraria port has been cancelled, and it's really... I mean, it sucks for the dev, but it's kind of funny too. It's not because Stadia's got a grim future as a platform, it's because the developer just lost access to their Google accounts. Now, this was first reported at the end of January, where Relogic lost access to their Terraria YouTube account, and every Google service attached to it. So, Google Play, Google Drive, Gmail, and so on. Now, this came after they received they say, randomly received an email saying there was a terms of service violation, but that it was likely accidental. By the time they reported it, they were already locked out for 10 days. They couldn't get in touch with anyone to solve their problem, or even people to give details to. Fast forward to this week then, and the CEO of Relogic went full scorched earth on them. He said, "I can take this no other way than you deciding to burn this bridge. Consider it burned." Terraria for Stadia is cancelled. My company will no longer support any of your platforms moving forward. I will not be involved with the corporation that values their customers and partners so little. Doing business with you is a liability. So that's quite a statement to make to Google. Now, according to a later update, even private communications with Google have turned up nothing useful. So for all the more philosophical and economic reasons of, big tech being a bad idea, this is almost worse as both consumer and creator. Google is so large, it's impenetrable, even internally. And yeah, it kind of is. It's one of those massive companies. They're basically, right? There are so many important eggs in one big, very complex basket that users and most of Google's own staff can only basically hope that nothing breaks. Even if somebody at the Stadia team took on this case, like personally, right away, how much access does that person actually have to the overall account tools or even people in the right team? The answer is apparently not enough even to help their valued partners. And when one of those partners says, doing business with you is a liability, you know something is going very wrong. This issue is nothing new either. It's been reported across Google sporadically. Users and creators are seemingly at risk of permanently losing access to their accounts and everything they've purchased. And suffice to say, if that happened to us, we'd be in a bit of a pickle. But, well, at least we don't own any games on Stadia, I suppose. Let's round off the news. So, over at Activision, they seem to be content with how the Battle.net platform is growing, and I imagine very content at the fact that they're doing their own store, so they don't have to give up a Steam fee whenever they sell things on BNet. And they must be happy with it, because Crash 4 is making its way to Switch, next-gen consoles, and PC, but not via Steam. I've got to be real with you, this is probably a smart move, even if the Battle.net launcher is, basically just a fancy launcher for Blizzard games that is not really a full platform competitor to something like Steam yet in terms of features and stuff. Hey, gotta convert those Crash players to World of Warcraft and Call of Duty, and vice versa. It is funny, though, that Activision are moving away from Steam while EA recently made steps to return to it, and Ubisoft put their last big hitters on Epic as well as their own platform. I guess, if anything, it kind of proves there's no right answer here. They're all doing what they think works best for their own slates of games. It's just a shame that the Crash and Spyro trilogies are sitting on Steam, Tony Hawk is sitting on Epic, and Crash 4 is sitting on BNet, and Crash Team Racing isn't even on PC. So a bit of a chaos situation. Now to close for today, do you remember Black Myth Wukong, the very fantastic looking game from a Tencent turned indie turned AAA studio? Well, they shared a trailer this week, of course, celebrating Chinese New Year, and we're very happy to report the game is looking pretty damn good. Doesn't have a release date or anything like that, though, but we did have the amusing intro line. As the mouse gives way to the ox, we have a growing talent and force. Here is a little tune for you, gamers dear. May you have a prosperous year. And I suppose on that nice message, I think it's time to end today's episode. I hope you found things interesting. Of course, be sure to let me know about what you thought on all of these stories. If you want to see the fruits of us spending a day and a half diving into the nitty-gritty of patent law so you can learn some cool new shit, check out yesterday's video. And if you want to support us in making said cool stuff and also get cool things in return, like, like physical loot, here's one that we literally did a year and a month ago. If you want physical loot, Patreon's the place. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. See you next time.